it is empowerment, people safety, and improvement and equity, justice. In political development, it empowers people to take decisions, to participate, and to develop themselves. So this has evolved over a period of time, and so it is now moving forward to match with the needs of the time. The When we link rural development and tourism, it has, as I said, very closely linked, but it has also given a lot of growth potential for rural development. First is that in it has been identified. Earlier they were all there. People used to visit, but they have come to the forefront where people come to know. It has have advocacy. People, I mean, they know about the importance of the place, and so that way it comes in a tourist map of India. It also provides the village people in terms of additional source of income, because a lot of activity for for giving facility to the people who visit, and to get insight into the various activities, their stay, their different logistics, and the various arts and crafts being sold, and their recognition. All this goes in generating economic activity. There are many new unique activities which could not be exposed until you read and you see virtually. It could not be exposed, but when you stay and observe, it gives quite a lot of real life situation, and people now slowly getting exposed to it. That's why at the end, I will also talk about post COVID, how we can cope up with rural development and the tourism. We have few strategies which if followed, then it can still move forward. So people may think that in staying hinterland and rural areas may have to sacrifice their comforts, but in rural areas, with the evolving changes in policies and programs, even they have all the comforts in staying those places. I will be giving a lot of examples even from Tamil Nadu and other parts of the country, where you can find that it is worth visiting and getting exposed to such activities, where you can get a lot of satisfaction and knowledge, and your insight will change. There are a lot of tribals, Aboriginal people across India, and these people also, the urban lot are elite, and the people may not get an occasion to stay and understand particular northeastern region, island states and united territories, and there will be definitely a lifetime experience to visit and see their lifestyle, their rich cultural heritage, their arts and crafts, and their very innovative way of living, and their housing structures, and their various festivities. And it has got world attention, and so this is one of the things which is coming up very fast. So these all are contributing to the growth of rural tourism, and it also uh, justifies that there is a lot need to be done for promoting the rural tourism. So that's why in Atmanirbhar India, now when the country is evolving in doing something of our own, there the tourism is also coming out as a very important avenue or an area where people can take interest, develop infrastructure, and get like established in this sector. India is very uniquely placed. It has a very rich cultural heritage. It has a glorious past, and people who know about India because of various activities, like knowledge of Sanskrit, or maybe so people come and study because it is compatible with Sanskrit. So computer language is compatible with Sanskrit, so they come and study Sanskrit. Many people want to know the rich heritage and past. They also come to know, okay, the food cuisine, because India is a very diverse country. Almost such diverse countries are not there in any part of the world. So they every 100 or 500 kilometers, there is a lot of changes in different aspects. So they would like to see, and all that they require the government and the people and the local bodies and the NGOs and the people who are stakeholders. They realize that the lack of infrastructure. So a deliberate effort since last 3 decades has come up, and these efforts in linking, in facilitating people to stay and be part of that, to observe. And there are many digital platforms which give them information, and people also are given skill development to share their knowledge and view. All this has boosted the uh, tourism sector. The particularly one area which has attracted the Indian rural tourism is the countryside. And this countryside, there is tourism which showcases rural life, and so that's why it's redefined. The rural tourism once again redefined in 2011 by the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. It is rural life, art, culture, heritage of rural locations, and it should have some economics and other benefit, social benefit to the community, and it should establish interaction between the people who visit and also the people who stay there, who can share their experience and knowledge. And so this has gone into a very fruitful proposition, where it is evolving in many places now. In many of the exhibitions, fairs, all these places, you can find Indian presence almost internationally in most of the activities. In rural areas, with the empowerment and 73rd constitutional amendment, we have 29 subjects. And in 29 subjects, these are being handled by locally. Their finance is drawn from the fund given by the Minister of Panchayat Raj. Their various taxes which the local body generates, people pay, and there is a lot of economic activities goes, and they also contribute towards this, their finances. Now, some of the activities, like say for example, you have the rural tourism specific activities are the first one, that is agriculture, including agriculture extension. Because in India, we have hill agriculture, we have the agriculture in very unique marshy land. We have unique type of aromatic and medicinal plants. We have flora, which is a very specific nature which people want to see in island and in different places of particularly hilly region like western coast or the other areas. And so this comes as a very unique. I will give also some examples on that. Swaminathan Foundation has also done some biodiversity and some ecosystem agriculture. This is put it in rural tourism. Now the item number 1, item 9, that is the Khadi village cottage industry, which promotes art, art and various artistic products in an economic way, and promote all across the country. They have Khadi village boards in each state. There are a lot of agencies, like particularly self-help groups. There are women groups, particularly self-help groups, and the other NGOs and community-based organizations, youth organizations, whoever is engaged in these cooperatives. So these promote these activities. So they are also directly under the promotional avenues of the local bodies. So there is 9. 21, you have the cultural activities like festivities in rural areas, and you have the fairs. You have different other activities which are then exhibitions. All this come under the local activity. Then we have markets and fairs. They're very specific activity. Then we have 29 is maintenance of communities like temple, old heritage sites. Then areas of importance, very unique propositions. So all these are coming under the rural areas. So this also gives a boost because finances are available, people participate, local people take decisions. So this all also help them to evolve quite a lot of tourism activities in rural areas. Now, in different types of rural tourism which are there, which now has been internalized in Indian rural tourism. Earlier, these were all not there, but now people used to come for temple or some maybe tribal area visit or forestry, hill, like adventure tourism in Himalayans, or maybe sports or other activities in island places, or maybe the zoos and wildlife. But now people have gone into various activities, and these are all internalized in our rural tourism. One is agri-tourism. As I said, I will be showing some examples on that. Agri-tourism is different types of very unique activities, which are particularly, say, for example, staying in farm, camping, educational visit, and all those activities. And farm tourism, where people, know how the farm operates, and that gives them exposure, particularly from the urban areas and international and other, tourists, to know about how the rural farm, activity goes on. And so this exposure is also attracting quite a lot of tourism. Then we have wildlife, very unique wildlife, forest tourism in the Himalayas, northeastern region, and some parts of the country. Different national zoos and parks are there, where you have safari, bird watching, trekking, hiking. So all these are there. Then we have another concept known as green tourism, where we have very thick vegetation in island, states and union territories, and some of the places like in the Western Ghats, Himalayan Tarai region, and say, for example, you have the Sundarbans, and some of the areas where you have green tourism. Then now the concept is ecotourism, where you associate yourself in protecting the nature, and protect in such a way that you live and in the natural atmosphere and unspoiled areas. So where the environmental conservation and direct benefit to goes to the local societies who stay there, and there is no ecological hazard, or there is no disturbance, or loss to the ecological aspects. So this ecotourism is also gaining moment. Now, what could be the broad benefit of rural tourism? This directly, as I said, or indirectly, it generates a lot of employment. There are people who in COVID time, that is the COVID duration, people have developed a lot of digital, movies and digital information, and these are being shared all across the net, which the people who wish to visit India, they have an idea like where it is happening, what are the various facets, and various information about logistics, and the uniqueness, and the the richness of the culture, heritage, and all that. So this also will definitely change their pursuit. I know a few people in northeastern region, they have developed a northeastern specific. Some in the Himalayan region in Uttarakhand, they have also developed some content. They are both local as well as in international languages, and being submitted to the Indian Embassy High Commissions for wide publicity, and also put it in the net, so that anybody who wish to see and visit India, they can have these exposure. And this is one part of the story, but the direct benefit is when the people come. Of course, COVID has put a challenge of direct visit now, but slowly situation may improve. Otherwise, you have the various guidelines to be followed, and maybe the situation may not be the same as earlier, but definitely it won't be less than a very reasonable amount. People will come and follow all the guidelines of COVID, and then they will also visit the area and take precautions, and learn and experience, and enrich the area. So that way the local people can get benefited. Second is preservation of local traditions. Earlier, people in large scale migration used to move from rural areas to urban areas in search of employment, in search of better living, accessibility to basic amenities, and all that. Now with the the rural tourism promotion, people stay back in their own areas and develop their own skills, preserve their skills and their heritage, and so that way it's a very great strength and great help which the rural people are getting in terms of protecting their heritage and their uniqueness, their traditions, their crafts and their festivities. And so that really is a sustainable aspects which otherwise would have been very difficult to preserve because of the pressure on economic pressure on migrating to areas of employment and other accessibility to various provisions. Then new skills, like as I said, digital platforms which have come during the COVID and post-COVID, which will be also be there. This has given new skill. Similarly, guides and people also try to learn. Many people in rural areas, they are now slowly trying to know more about how it got evolved and the past history and the past various activities, so that they can document. So when the tourists visit or they stay there, they can explain to them and they can participate in the activities. So various NGOs, local bodies, and community-based organizations, universities, and research organizations, even students are also trying to take up such activities, are funded by different like Minister of Tribal Affairs or the Minister of HRD, UGC, and even international organizations are UNESCO and many other agencies are trying to fund these activities to document all the activities, and so thereby they develop they develop the new skills. Cultural exchange, the rural tourism, obviously they know about the people, what their expectations are and what they can offer of their uniqueness, and that way there is a cross cultural interaction, and both get benefited, but the local people get to know the preferences, the interest, the areas where the people want to visit, and so they upkeep develop their knowledge to see that this they can take it forward. Urban drift, as I already mentioned at the beginning, that earlier the rural people were large scale migration was there. Now slowly it is getting reduced. And during COVID, of course, fortunately, people knew the challenges and the problems they face in large scale movement from the cities to rural areas. Now a lot of activities are being taken up to develop their local area, particularly rural tourism is one, where the people can get engaged. And so that way they need not have to move to the urban areas. Then improved quality of life as the areas tourism gets developed, a lot of infrastructure gets developed, a lot of support system gets developed, and so this all improves their accessibility to various activities, because people from outside, when they come, they need to have basic minimum facilities. So these over the years, say maybe 10 years back, this was not thought very seriously, but now it has taken as a very important step. And even Atmanirbhar India, even people can take infrastructure development and identify the required facilities and get make projects and get funded. So this type of activities, and local bodies are also very active in promoting these activities, because they know that this is going to help them in smooth flow of the business activities and income for the communities. Entrepreneurial opportunity, as I said, Atmanirbhar India is one, but there are many private, there are a lot of national, international fund, people like, for example, Buddhist, Japan and Korea, they want to invest quite a lot to preserve the Buddhist monuments. There are also people of Indian origin all across the world, they want to protect temples and the various structures which over the years were not very maintained well or upkeep because of lack of funds, and even protect the land and other associated with the temples, and a lot of activities they want to create. So it all will lead to a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities by logistics, transportation, their stay, their various areas related to hotel industry, their food aspects, and the tourism in case of guides and many others, housekeeping. All this will require a lot of entrepreneurial opportunity, which people are slowly taking up. Community also, earlier community used to think, even tribal people, when you visit long back, maybe some a decade back or even 2 decades back, people were thinking that they are very less privileged compared to the city. People stay in cities and other areas, they get quite a lot of I think I am not exceeding the time. I will go little quicker. Community pride is one that helps them people to take forward many activities. Environmental benefits. Hello. Environmental benefits. They say that all these activities are supporting to protection of the environment, landscape conservation. So this really helps in protection of environment. Sustainable livelihood, women empowerment. Women are coming in a large way in taking up activities which will help in rural tourism. Well, there is this particularly under the present activities, the district collector monitors the activities of rural area development, particular important areas like heritage sites or different types of rural tourism centers, and so there is a direct government protection involvement and all that. There is almost 100% support in terms of about 50 lakhs for infrastructure development and 20 lakhs for capacity building, but training, exposure, and all that to the people. There is another scheme like Swadesh Darshan, which based on tourism circuits are there. For example, 4 or 5 things they want to see of a particular nature, which are related to different, like say either religious tourism or maybe forest or wildlife or maybe agriculture or all these. So this gets also support under the Swadesh Darshan. Then grassroots level, various organizations they're there which are operating. In Tamil Nadu, we have Dhan Foundation, Swaminathan Foundation, and some of the players who are working very closely with very innovative practices. Now, the key success in case of the rural tourism, we have the stakeholder. That is, all the people are involved in different community. But in case of people who want to invest in infrastructure development, like the government or other agencies, then we have the community. Then we have the very unique thing, that is the GI, geographic identification or authenticity, or you have the unique selling proposition. Then training, organizing field tours, leveraging technology, that is a digital content development, networking with all relating agencies, and internalizing the policies and programs state and central, because they will get funding and support from time to time. Now, in case of Swaminathan Foundation, they have done quite a unique thing in which particularly they concentrate on biodiversity, sustainable tourism, which is a part of the rural tourism, in which they have what is known as empowering the custodian farmers and the genome saviors, where we have a rich particular diversity in agriculture. And Swaminathan Foundation want to protect this one by exposure to the farmers and the the people who want to know about all this. So that's why in different centers are there across India, their projects are working. So they take them and they like expose them, like in Koraput, Orissa, Kuttina. Then I think that's in Kerala. We have Kolli Hills, Wayanad. All this training and tourism given. Then we have the educational tours of farmer fields, that is under the bio-education travel. These also there for the farmers. We have agriculture heritage sites. These are basically like spice villages, coffee mountains, millet villages, like these activities where you have other varieties also associated with their folk culture and variety. These are also being taken them with them. There are international agriculture heritage sites where there are about 13 which are operating in India. In Koraput, the traditional agriculture system. We have that is sea farming system, below sea farming system. That is, you have saffron heritage in Kashmir. We have there is one grand Anika Kalanai farmer. I think it's in Tamil Nadu. We have a catamaran fishing system, like the different types of like Darjeeling, different activities are there in the terrace cultivation. Then we have rice fish culture cultivation. We have Ladakh agriculture, that is also in hilly terrain in Himalayan region. We have desert agriculture. We have Sikkim, that aromatic medicinal plants and some of the very unique thing in Sikkim. We have in rural tourism, there are a lot of heritage sites about very important sites are there in India, and they also need a lot of protection. So government gets a lot of funding from even international agency to protect this, and this also promotes in rural tourism in India. This contributes, as I said at the beginning, that they are the complementary to each other. The rural tourism helps the rural development sector because the rural development is developing the rural areas, and the people who are very unique culturally, arts, crafts, and their culture, they are part of the rural areas. So when you develop that area for rural tourism, the rural development also gets developed, and then the various benefits, economic, social, other benefits also go to the people. They basically, I can summarize a few quickly. That is employment generation, we have already discussed. Preservation of local traditions, developing new skills, cultural exchange, reduction urban. I think this is, we have already covered. Different stakeholders, I think we discussed it briefly. They are mostly state government, local panchayats, the local bodies, local communities, religious, social groups, businesses, tour operators, travel, tourists. Then there are different agencies which promote, that is the grassroots rural tourism network. Then Dhan Foundation, particularly in it relates to Tamil Nadu. You got travel, another India, cultural, Angan. We have Eco Spiti, that is Eco Spiti is in your Ladakh and the northeastern region. Village Wage, and so some are from other parts, but some relate to Tamil Nadu. Village Wage and Eco Login. There are different sites which are of important, which mostly people when it comes to rural tourism, they would like to visit, and they want to spend some time. That is, you have Marathi, that is in Maharashtra. It promotes agri-tourism. We have Kuchipudi in Andhra Pradesh, that is a dance form. We have Madhya Pradesh, that is Orcha, that is in Tikamgarh district, about the adventure and historical promotion. Pipli in Odisha, it's about applique works. We have Sami Sarad village resort, that is in Kutch, where it is about eco-friendly structures, agri-tourism development, which is in Maharashtra, where it started in one Baramati agri-tourism center. Now 325 villages across the state are practicing. Kumarakom rural tourism, it's in Kerala. It is integrated with a rural development program known as Kutumbasri, and they sell fruits and vegetable tourists in kiosks and hotels and restaurants, and that they promote. Kerala Homestay and Tourism Society. Then Saji, that is Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, where the MPs, the members of parliament adopt the various villages and they get funded. And so that is one they have done in Sikkim, but it everywhere there across the country. So even people from Tamil Nadu, whichever is MP, they have adapted villages, and there also one of the activities is rural tourism. Some of the, there is a Kutch Adventureum, that is a community tourism in Kutch. This is a very unique area where they have embroidery, they have the cottages. There they offer the different types of, like life. They stay in mud houses. They have different, so that get exposure to them. You have the rural Punjab, where when people come, because in Punjab many people are migrated, and like say in particular Tamil Nadu and others, people go to other countries. Like that, the particular Sikhs have migrated quite a lot, and many are in Canada, UK, Australia. And so the parents want that these people should come and spend some time in their villages, and want to get exposed to various farm activities, because the mainstay of Punjab is the agriculture. So they have developed this infrastructure, and people come and they spend. So there is a large scale visit of the people from abroad to come and spend some time in these areas. You have the high altitude rural tourism, that is, as I said, Himachal Pradesh and Ladakh, Leh, and where people from Buddhists and people from other communities also, they go and see how they stay, and they, there's a very rich culture and heritage, and they learn quite a lot about the community initiatives. Then have Sundarbans, where it is a delta and the very rich forest area and evergreen area, and so it's a UNESCO heritage site, where they have there is no main water supply, electricity, roads, but you have to stay in their their lifestyles, like in mud straw thatched houses and all that. So it is eco rigid, and people like that, and they spend some time and understand the people staying there. Then we have the Jodhpur, that is the desert area, where there is a community known as Bishnoi community. They are mostly vegetarians, and they protect the environment, and there is quite a lot of stories about them. So people like the delicious home cooked food and the various folk dances, camel safaris, village trekking, and all that. You have Himachal Pradesh, that is in hilly terrain. So there is a German funded, where they develop their art gallery, ecological beauty guest house. People go and visit. You have Rajasthan. There are quite a lot of activity because of ancient and middle age forts and others, and so they also attract a lot of tourism. You people can go to northeastern and stay in remote areas, even people who are not accessible, like Nagaland, where you can spend and see their lifestyle and the greenery and their activities, particularly Assam and northeastern region. You have jungle retreat, that is in Chhattisgarh, where, as I said, eco-tourism and that sort of thing. People stay and they see their various activity. You have there is one more is known as overlander. There is the you go in a overlander jeep, and then you can enjoy the desert and like say dry riverbed and village community, spending time and all that. You have in Koraput, that is a tribal district, where people can see their various activities and they cook tribal cuisine, farming, trekking, hiking, cycling, and all that. There are also rural, particularly the state of Punjab, they have rural sports. People from all states also participate in the rural activity, but this is being held in different places. In Ludhiana, for example, they have dance, they have various sports activities, and they exhibit quite a lot of other activities related to their lifestyle. And this goes every year, so this is one very big attraction. It is being held in different places, like it was held once in Raipur as well. Gujarat, Dang district is a thick vegetated area, where you have Dang people go for a visit to these areas. Very rare species of plants and fauna, flora are there, and then you have village life which they want to get exposed. Now, having been known that rural development and rural tourism, then the complementary nature, various benefits, various projects ongoing, various facilities being developed, and the insights into the whole thing. Now we will discuss about the sustainability for the tourism. Now, when the tourism, like based on the economic, social, environmental, benefits, and it takes into account and all these in addressing needs of a vegetarian industry and environment and host community, then it becomes a sustainable tourism. So different guidelines are developed by the different agencies, policy making agency in government and international agencies, and they are being trying to familiarize with various agencies, and people follow but a lot need to be done. And this tells about the promotion of mass tourism and a very unique type of tourism segments. The principle behind is to once again to environmental, economic, and social cultural aspects, and keep a balance between all this for a long-term sustainability. In case of sustainable tourism, we have optimal, the care should be taken, and the guideline is that optimal use of environmental resources, because the environmental resources are limited. So for that, you try to assess the various strengths of the area and the culture and the various uniqueness, and try to evolve and essential ecological process in helping conserving the heritage, biodiversity, as well as the optimal use of environmental resources. Second is the each community or the rural areas has a particular pattern of their culture and their lifestyle. So we have to respect the socio-cultural authenticity of host communities who exhibit and they who present their cultural heritage and traditional values. The next one is ensure viable long-term economic operation, because until it is linked to economics, it may not sustain. So there should be continuous income flow or some gain like employment generation, and so that people will stick to it and they develop and it becomes sustainable. And so in the process, when you dovetail all this, there will be poverty reduction, there will be better infrastructure, there will be better amenity, accessible to better amenity and income opportunities. There is it UN. I think many of the students they may be knowing that there is the earlier it was a Millennium Development MDG, Millennium Development Goal, that is say for 15 years by the UN. You have various activities, and it got concluded in 2015. From 2016 to 2013, another 15 years, the world, all countries agreed to have some standard, and these are known as sustainable development goal. Because if we do not protect we got only one earth, we have manifold problems of people, we have their income, their livelihood, we got various, when you are environment, we have resources, we need protection, we have to use optimally, and you have to live and let live and protect our earth. So for that, the countries have agreed on 17 goals. And from the 17 goals up to 2030, about 8 goals are directly related to tourism, and mostly they are rural tourism. That is, for example, 1, you have the no poverty. You have 8, that is decent work and economic growth. You have 9 is industry, innovation, and infrastructure development. You have 11 is sustainable cities and community. When you say sustainable cities and communities, when you talk about smart city, it necessarily means smart villages also, because the inputs will come from villages and the periphery of the cities. So when we have smart cities are being developed, lot of interconnectivity with the surrounding villages, and the villages developed as smart villages. Like when long back, when during President Dr. Abdul Kalam, he developed what is known as Pura, and he took some 10 or so areas, and these rural areas are developed into providing urban facility in rural areas, and developed an economic hubs and transformed the area. Many of the UP, I mean this Pura, I think one is in uh, near Trichinapalli, one that is promoted by Dhan Foundation. So in many other states they are there, and they are very successful, but it could not be taken up further because of lack of proper guidelines. But communities have developed, and quite a lot of serious work has been done by the community-based organization and voluntary agencies, international organizations. And now after the SDG, they are now integrated with this Pura goals also are part of this in India, though these are evolved internationally. And so this is giving a fillip to developing rural tourism and that contributing the SDG goals. So that is a very clear-cut help which comes in terms of boosting the meeting of the SDG goals. That is sustainable development goals, because each country has agreed, and it is almost like mandatory for each country to contribute towards the sustainable development goal. Now, in tourism and sustainability, some of the issues which needs immediate support to meet the sustainable goals is, one is biodiversity. To keep protecting the biodiversity, there is a rich cultural, particularly the biodiversity in our country. We have a very rich biodiversity, so we have to conserve that biodiversity in terms of various measures, particularly our like our various activities, that is particularly not to pressurize the natural resources, to use the minimal or optimal use of resources, to conserve forest and aquatic and the wildlife and other activities in the region, and sea and other particular the resources, particularly these also needs protection, and so our consumption should be commensurate with what the area can give, and to the extent which we do not damage the areas. So this is a Himalayan region, also needs hilly region, and other island regions. They are all needs a specific approach to biodiversity, and this is one area. Second is, there is a lot of climate change which is upcoming, and these are directly not related. It could be indirect also impact. That is, we have the various greenhouse gases and pollution. Then we have emittances. Then we have oil spill. We have forest fire. We have various disasters which are occurring. All have a climate related activities, natural, and some are man-made. Man-made is getting quite substantially noticed because of the industrial rapid industrialization, as well as the emittance from the vehicular traffic, then our consumption pattern in plastic and other areas. So there is a specific activity, that is Global Tourism Plastic Initiative, where the world community has agreed to collect plastic and to clean the sea coast, river basins, and many of the activities to recycle and to reuse and other activities they take up from waste to wealth. So that is another aspects. But the climate change is one very evidently seen, and this needs that we, like particularly when we got COVID, we could see for ourselves like how the climate parameters are under control. So we need to learn from the COVID period, and then of course we can change our lifestyle to, of course many changes have taken place, but we could see that we do not overuse our resources, and live and let live, protect our surrounding and our environment to make climate resilient. So that's why the climate change, climate resilient, climate agriculture, many are upcoming, which people are slowly getting trained and very seriously thinking countries to adapt to. Otherwise our future will be very difficult, because we will expose to very extremities. Energy is one aspect which is really creating very problem. It has also climate related aspects. So the energy solution, that is one important, which also protect directly indirectly with tourism for sustainable operation. And so there we are going to renewable energy, that is solar, wind and others. Fortunately coastal belt of Tamil Nadu and many areas have got the renewable energy. But energy of late, we are a part of, India is a part of the Solar Alliance, where 200 countries are also participating, and there is a large scale deserts and many areas which otherwise not agriculture very rich are now converted into energy generation, and which of late are giving the energy solutions. We have there is one more thing, is that there is observation observation network, which is known as INSTO. and that is International Network for Sustainable Tourism Observatory. This is the advisory, and so people and countries and local areas and people associated, they get advices from this and they coordinate the activities. We have another concept known as One Planet, where people manage their various capacities, and they also support the job creation, promote inclusive social integration, protect natural and cultural heritage, conserve biodiversity. This is One Planet. Then there is also resilience of tourism. This is one is there is, if there is a risk, there is, for example, water sports, adventure tourism, or there is some wide scale destruction to biodiversity or other areas. So there is this uh, concept of this resilience to tourism, which they assist and to see that we mitigate that, to see that the crisis do not happen. Then we have resource efficiency, which is everybody try to meet the SDG goal, so that way to efficiently use the resources which are available. Then there is a small island developing states, which also need a specific type of support for the rural tourism, and their tourism in terms of the fauna, flora, water sports, various other activities, very unique than the other activities. So they need a specific approach, that's known as SIDS. And we have a travel facilitation where there is a networking of all the activities where the people share information, and so there is no disadvantage to any people visiting places, and so the support is being delivered. Then we have the post. Then we are coming a very important aspects, that is the new guideline for post COVID-19 tourism, rural tourism, where we need to the world has changed. So here we need to protect different protect ourselves and the area and the tourism sector, and also to get benefit of earlier whatever you used to derive the same benefit. So that way, as I said, one is the different content development and various things which are limited way it is being pursued. So we should not be pessimistic that there is no hope and things will be difficult, but it's still could be pursued, but in a limited way, and slowly it can pick up based on various precautions. So these only restrictions of international locations, national locations, all need to be followed. And then there is, say, for example, variety of contaminated areas. For example, the personal dangers guidelines, they are all suggestive, but then to protect, one is the pointers. Pointers is that whichever guideline is being given by the countries or local authorities or international agencies, that must be followed. So that is one. Second is necessity, that always carrying the hygiene, always be hygienic, and carrying, for example, gadgets like face mask, gloves, alcohol wipes, hand sanitizers. Medical history, all the information about medical history, this need to be carried with that, because in what place what will happen we don't know. So this is being given in the guideline. Health insurance coverage is being mandatory, so that in eventuality anything happens, support will be given. Analysis of tourist spot, you can see digitally before visiting any place, and the facility being provided and how safe it is. Then planning is correct planning, that is in terms of contingency and in terms of some unforeseen situation. So this need to be done. Then here the international agencies has given that the people are the first to safeguard in case of COVID-19 by cooperating closely with the countries, health agencies, police, government, WHO, ICMR, and other agencies, by ensuring all guidelines, that ICMR, Minister of Home, WHO guideline, and all that, minimal, wherever there is a minimum risk, that to be followed, and unnecessary impact of trade and all that to be avoided, and cooperate with all the areas, the standing with the problems and whatever it is, support system with all the areas. in terms of tourism promotion, and emphasizing the resilience and sending ready to support recovery. For example, if anything happens, to get resilient to support. The concluding remarks that in the post-COVID and also the tourist potential we have and tourism potential we have very unique and rich cultural heritage, and that we have richly diverse, and we have a lot of opportunities and promise, which if developed properly, it can generate a lot of employment, economic gain to the various rural areas. Niti Aayog promoted what is known as that tourism should be taken as a product, not as a facility or anything. So that when you say product, it means that it gives certain satisfaction, it gives certain offerings, it has certain benefits. So the people should see tourism as a product. So that way they want to give all support system in terms of tourism as a product. Second is they want to promote ecotourism, that is coming up well, but not so popular. So they want to promote more of ecotourism. A lot of potential is there in the country. Religious tourism has come up to some extent, but still people feel that better infrastructure facilities should be developed, circular route, people, and then many others which is upcoming, and some activities have been taken up and they're developed well, but a lot need to be taken. Special interest tourism, that is you have adventure, come religious, come ecotourism, these sort of new things should be promoted. Upkeep and maintenance tourist site, this is I think primary, because if you have good facilities, good connectivity, safety standards, everything, then people would tend to visit those areas. Publicity of traditional tourist spots, culture, we have publicity, but not too much like international agency in other countries. So we should have wide publicity. We have a heritage site development, which are UN and UNESCO and other organizations are funding. Government of India is also funding, state and local authority are funding, but we need to develop still further and develop it as a center of prominent tourist visit and understanding, and so this need to be taken up very prominently. Exhibition fairs, local places, this need to be promoted. They are there, but I think more need to be taken up. Local festivities are there, but they are once in a year, maybe once in a while, but I think more activities should be taken to popularize tourism. Incentives in air, for example, if the people give incentives, some are there in central government and some state governments, but made to be open to all activities, that whoever want to visit places in case of tourism, that is rural tourism, they should be given incentive in air or train journeys. Then I think more and more people will get attracted. Students, if given benefit, they will also get attracted. Networking with all national, international, regional, then the people will, when they go to a tourist place, they want to visit as maximum as possible, so they can cover more and more areas. Exposure and tourist sites at school level, that will generate interest. So in the school level, I think the new education policy has diverse exposure and need to also integrate these aspects. Then the post-COVID provisions have both opportunities and challenges, but if we make the right choice, then definitely it is going to take forward, and there is a lot of promise and there is a lot of opportunity. So I thank you very much, and I am privileged to have been given this opportunity. I am grateful to the Department of Earth Sciences, Central University, Tamil Nadu. And any questions, I will be happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I will share my PPT with Professor Sulochana Madam.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Any
Yeah, I will take it. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your